I never expected to stand up at my brother's wedding, but life has a way of creating perfect moments for revenge. As I watched Marcus beam at his bride-to-be, I thought about the path that led us here, a path paved with betrayal, determination, and carefully orchestrated plans. 5 years earlier, I sat in my father's study, the leather chair feeling unusually cold against my back. The mahogany desk between us held a single envelope, my grandfather's will. Dad's expression was unreadable as he adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. "Sophie," he began, his voice carrying that familiar tone of disappointment, "your grandfather left quite a substantial inheritance." He paused, fingers drumming against the desk. $2 million to be split between you and Marcus. My heart skipped. 1 million each, enough to finally launch the tech startup I'd been planning for years. But something in Dad's expression made my stomach twist. "However," he continued, "as executor of the will, I have some discretion in its distribution. Marcus needs this money more than you do. He's starting a family, buying a house. You just have your little software projects." The words hit like physical blows. My little software projects had already secured 2 patents, but in my family's eyes, anything technology-related that didn't involve corporate suits was just a hobby. "Dad, that's not fair. Grandpa meant for us to split it equally." He raised his hand, silencing me with a gesture he perfected over the years. "I've made my decision. Marcus will receive the full amount. You're smart, Sophie. You'll figure something out." I left his study that day with something more valuable than money: clarity. For years, I tried to win my family's approval, to make them see the potential in my ideas. Now I understood that would never happen. That night, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to James Chin, a venture capitalist who'd been pursuing my latest software innovation, an AI-driven financial analysis platform. "You still interested in that exclusive license?" I asked. "Name your price," he replied without hesitation. The second call went to Diana Martinez, CEO of a struggling tech firm I'd been quietly watching. "I have a proposition for you," I began. The third call was to my best friend Mia, who'd recently inherited her father's investment firm. "Remember that plan we discussed? It's time." Within 6 months, my little software project had transformed into Aurora Technologies, a company that specialized in predicting market trends with unprecedented accuracy. We operated in the shadows, using shell companies and quiet acquisitions to build our empire. Marcus, flush with his newfound wealth, did what my family always expected of him. He invested in safe ventures, joined the right clubs, and proposed to Vanessa Mitchell, the daughter of a prominent business family. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that every safe investment he made was quietly being acquired by one of my shell companies. Every business deal he celebrated was orchestrated by Aurora's algorithms. While he boasted at family dinners about his business acumen, I sat quietly, watching my father beam with pride at his son's success. 3 years passed. Aurora Technologies grew into a billion-dollar empire, though few knew who actually owned it. I maintained my modest apartment, drove my old car, and let my family believe I was still working on my hobby. Then Marcus made his biggest move yet. He decided to acquire Mitchell Industries, his future father-in-law's company. The deal would establish him as a serious player in the business world. He leveraged everything he had, convinced that his business instincts were infallible. What he didn't know was that Mitchell Industries was already under Aurora's control. His future bride, Vanessa Mitchell, wasn't just the daughter of the founder. She was the CEO who had partnered with me to save her family's company 2 years earlier. The wedding was set for spring in the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel. I watched my family fuss over preparations, treating it like a coronation for their golden child. Marcus would be marrying into one of the city's most prestigious families, and Dad couldn't have been prouder. The morning of the wedding, as I adjusted my bridesmaid's dress, yes, Marcus insisted I participate. Appearances matter, after all. I received a text from Vanessa. "Board meeting concluded. All papers signed. It's done." I smiled at my reflection. In precisely 3 hours, during what was supposed to be the happiest moment of my brother's life, he would learn that he had just lost everything. His investments, his business deals, his carefully constructed empire. All of it now belonged to Aurora Technologies, and he was about to marry its CEO. When the minister asked if anyone objected to this union, I would stand up not as the forgotten sister, but as the owner of the company that had just acquired every business decision my brother had ever made. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be served cold, sometimes it just needs the perfect moment. The wedding march began to play, and I took my place among the bridesmaids, watching Marcus's face glow with confidence and pride. He had no idea that in less than an hour, his entire world would change forever. The Riverside Hotel's grand ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers, white roses and silver ribbons adorning every surface. As Vanessa walked down the aisle in her designer gown, I couldn't help but admire her composure. Nobody would have guessed that just hours ago she had signed the papers that would destroy her soon-to-be husband's business empire. Marcus stood at the altar, beaming with the same self-assured smile he'd worn his entire life. Dad sat in the front row, chest puffed with pride, while Mom dabbed at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief. They had no idea they were about to witness their perfect son's perfect world crumble. The ceremony proceeded exactly as rehearsed. The minister spoke about love, commitment, and trust, words that made me want to laugh given what was about to unfold. Then came the moment we'd been waiting for. If anyone has any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. The traditional pause followed. My heart pounded as I stepped forward. Actually, I said, my voice clear and steady, I do object. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Marcus turned to me, his face flushing red with anger. Sophie, what are you doing? I smiled, the same quiet smile I'd worn at countless family dinners while they dismissed my achievements. I think my brother should know exactly who he's marrying. I turned to address the shocked guests. Vanessa isn't just the daughter of Mitchell Industries founder. She's the CEO of the company that just acquired every business Marcus owns. Dad stood up, his face darkening. Sophie, stop this nonsense immediately. It's not nonsense, Dad. I continued, pulling out my phone. In fact, let me share some breaking business news. I read from the screen. Aurora Technologies, the leading AI-driven financial powerhouse, announces its acquisition of all subsidiaries previously owned by Marcus Wellington in a deal finalized this morning. Marcus laughed, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. Aurora Technologies, that company's been trying to take over half the market, but they don't own my businesses. I would know if they did. Would you? Vanessa finally spoke, her voice cool and professional. Aurora Technologies has been acquiring your companies through shell corporations for the past 3 years. As of 9 a.m. this morning, they own everything you've built with that $2 million inheritance. The color drained from Marcus's face as he turned to his bride. You knew about this. Of course she knew, I said, stepping closer. She's been Aurora's CEO for the past 2 years. But here's the real twist. Dear brother, she answers to me. I own Aurora Technologies. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as understanding dawned on my father's face, followed by disbelief, and then something I'd never seen before. Fear. That's impossible, he whispered. You just work on small software projects. I laughed. Those small software projects built an AI system that can predict market trends with 96% accuracy. While you were giving Marcus my inheritance because he needed it more, I was building an empire. Every smart investment decision he made was orchestrated by my algorithms. Every lucky break he got was carefully planned by my team. Marcus lunged forward. Vanessa stepped between us. It's all legal, Marcus. Every contract, every acquisition, every deal. It's ironclad. You didn't just lose your businesses today. You lost them years ago. You were just too arrogant to notice. Why? Marcus's voice cracked. Why would you do this? Because 5 years ago, Dad taught me a valuable lesson about family, I said, meeting our father's eyes. He showed me that in this family, success only counts if it comes in the package they expect. Well, surprise, I succeeded, just not in the way you planned. I turned to leave but paused at the altar. Oh, and Vanessa. The board meeting on Monday is moved to 9 a.m. We have some new acquisitions to discuss. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. The wedding was called off, obviously. Marcus tried to fight the acquisitions in court, but discovered that every transaction was perfectly legal. Dad attempted to reach out multiple times, suddenly interested in my little software projects, but his calls went unanswered. A month later, I sat in my real office, the penthouse suite of Aurora Technologies headquarters, looking out over the city. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Dinner tonight? I'm buying. considering you cost me a wedding." I smiled. She had been the perfect partner in this plan, understanding exactly why it needed to be done. We'd built something remarkable together, far beyond the simple revenge I'd initially planned. My father's words from that day in his study echoed in my mind. "You'll figure something out." Well, I had figured it out. I figured out that success doesn't need anyone's permission or approval. Sometimes it just needs enough motivation and the patience to wait for the perfect moment. The $2 million that should have been mine, I turned it into $2 billion. And I did it my way, without their support, without their connections, without their approval. Last week, I received an invitation to my cousin's wedding. Apparently, Marcus won't be attending. He's too busy working at his new job, a middle management position at a small firm across town. I sent a generous gift with a note that read, "Congratulations. By the way, Aurora Technologies just acquired your company. Welcome to the family business." Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about rising so far above them that they can't help but look up and wonder how they missed seeing your potential all along. As for that small apartment I'd kept all these years, I bought the building last month. Sometimes it's fun to keep up appearances, especially when those appearances hide an empire built on the ashes of other people's arrogance. Dad still sends monthly emails, each one filled with business proposals and investment opportunities. I forward them to my spam folder, right next to Marcus's desperate attempts to explain why he deserved that inheritance more than me. But my favorite email came from my grandfather's old lawyer. Apparently, there was a letter to be delivered 5 years after the will's execution. It read, "Dear Sophie, if you're reading this, your father probably did exactly what I expected with the inheritance. Remember, success is the best revenge, but patience makes it sweeter. P.S. Check your offshore account. That $2 million your father redirected? I matched it in an account he never knew about. Love, Grandpa." I had never used that money. I didn't need to, but knowing it was there, knowing that at least one person in my family had believed in me all along, that was worth more than any inheritance.
It was a beautiful, sunny summer day, and the Appleton family gathered on the patio. Craig, the head of the family, sat in the gazebo's shade wearing a robe and a black bandage over his eyes. He sipped his coffee while his wife Diana sunbathed on a lounger with a cocktail, looking stunning with her perfect figure and impeccable looks. She fluttered her long, doll-like eyelashes and yelled at her stepdaughter Lisa, a lively 7-year-old who was running around the pool, trying to catch a butterfly with a net. "Lisa, stop running. Calm down, can you play quietly for at least 5 minutes?" "Oh, naughty child," Diana scolded. Lisa, an active and adorable girl with curly brown hair and chubby cheeks, looked like a little angel. She was long used to her stepmother's lack of affection, so she didn't even flinch at the reprimand. A beautiful butterfly with colorful wings landed on the edge of the pool. Lisa carefully took her phone from her pocket, wanting to take a picture. She approached closer and closer to the pool's edge and suddenly stumbled, falling head over heels into the water. Lisa started screaming and flailing because she couldn't swim well. "Daddy, Daddy, I'm drowning. Help me." Craig rushed to the pool in a panic, but being nearly blind, he moved unsteadily, staggering and feeling his way with his hands. "Diana, can't you hear? Help, Lisa. I can't see anything. Where am I going?" Diana didn't get up from the lounger, just protested, "You little brat, I told you to sit quietly. This will teach you a lesson. Stop shouting and swim to the edge. Come on." Hearing the girl's cries, the gardener, Peter, threw away his lawnmower and ran to the pool, jumping into the water. He quickly pulled Lisa out. Lisa rushed to her father, hugged him in fright, and cried, "Daddy, I was so scared. I just wanted to take a picture of the butterfly. The phone drowned too. I didn't mean to." "It's okay, sweetie. We'll buy you a new one," Craig comforted her. "These are just little things. The main thing is that you're alive and healthy. Go change clothes in the house, but please be more careful. Don't approach the edge closely. The tile is very slippery. Don't scare Daddy like that." Diana flew into a rage. "What a weakling you are. You should have punished her for disobeying. She almost drowned and ruined an expensive item. All you do is spoil her, and she's gone completely crazy. When are you going to find a nanny for your daughter? I can't deal with her, she's spoiled and unbearable. But Craig sharply rebuked Diana. How dare you? She almost drowned, and instead of helping, you sat there. Thanks to Peter, Lisa is safe. She is just a child who has lost her mother. I love her very much, and you will have to accept that if you want to be with me. Do you think that if you have your own child, they won't run around and misbehave? And yes, I will definitely find a nanny. I've already placed an ad, but you see, I'm blind now, so it's very difficult to do. Realizing she had gone too far, Diana quickly backed down. Don't be angry, dear. I love you very much, you know that, but I can't be tied to Lisa all day. I have training, fitness, massage, and a beauty salon. And now, moreover, your business and your daughter are on me, so hurry up and find a nanny. It will make life easier for all of us. Anyway, I have to go. I have a manicure at 12 and a massage at 2. Love you. Don't miss me too much. Lisa was happy that her stepmother was leaving and quietly sat next to her father, hugging him with her little hands. I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean to. Why is Diana so mean? She doesn't love me, and you just don't notice it. I miss my loving mommy so much, Lisa sobbed. Craig hugged his little girl tightly. I miss her too, my little one. She was the best. But you know she's in heaven now, and Diana isn't so bad. You're just not used to each other yet. I promise you'll get to choose the nanny yourself. In fact, another candidate should be coming soon. Lisa kissed her father on the cheek and ran off to play with her dolls in the yard. Craig closed his eyes in pain and began to reminisce about his life. His first wife, Vanessa, was beautiful and an excellent housewife. She came from a decent family, and most importantly, she loved Craig deeply. They were supposed to live happily ever after, but 2 years ago she died from a serious genetic illness that started after childbirth. Her vision deteriorated, then her memory, and eventually, her arms and legs stopped working. Vanessa became bedridden and gradually faded away. It was heartbreaking to watch a young and beautiful woman become a helpless invalid. Craig was consumed with helplessness because no matter how much he spent on medicine, he couldn't get her back on her feet. After Vanessa's funeral, their daughter withdrew, cried for a long time, and still mourned her mom. Craig also thought he would never be able to live with anyone else. But one day, at a business dinner in a restaurant, he saw Diana. She was sitting with a friend, drinking martinis and chatting merrily. The business dinner smoothly turned into fun with dancing, and as they danced a slow dance, Craig was powerless against the allure of her young, desirable body and beauty. That's how their romance began, ending in a quick wedding. Diana quickly settled in and felt like the mistress of the house. She confidently gave tasks to everyone and commanded the household. But she and Lisa just couldn't get along, and it was mutual. To be honest, Craig believed that Lisa was just jealous of his new wife and thought it would pass with time. However, even after 2 years, the situation did not improve. The stepmother and stepdaughter openly fought. Then, 2 weeks ago, a terrible incident happened. Their driver, Tim, asked for some time off for personal reasons, and Craig had to drive himself. Late at work one day, as he approached his car in the parking lot, 3 bandits attacked him from behind. He fought back, but one of the criminals sprayed pepper spray directly into his face. Fortunately, a passing patrol car scared off the hooligans, but the eye burns were so serious that Craig almost went blind. Now, he had to wear black sunglasses or a blindfold while undergoing intensive treatment. The doctors warned him that if the medications didn't help, he would need an operation to restore his vision. This gave him some hope, but he was still terribly nervous. Craig was practically disabled for a while and forced to stay home. What annoyed the businessman most was that he couldn't understand who he had offended so much. He hadn't had such sharp conflicts in a long time. Now he had to manage the company from home, talk to partners on the phone, and hold online conferences. Surprisingly, his wife, Diana, quickly got involved in the business and plunged headlong into it. Craig's thoughts were interrupted by a pleasant voice. Good afternoon, are you Craig Appleton? My name is Carol. I came for the nanny vacancy. I am scheduled for 12 o'clock, the businessman smiled. Though he couldn't see his interlocutor, he had a feeling she was a pleasant young girl. He began asking questions. "Carol, how old are you? Have you been working with children for a long time? Do you have recommendations from your previous job? And what kind of education do you have? I just love my daughter very much and want to find a real professional for her." Carol sighed. "Then I probably won't suit you. I have no recommendations, but I love children very much and am ready to work for a small fee. I have already met Lisa. She's a wonderful girl. I promise to be with her all the time and to teach her." At that moment, Lisa ran up, seeing her father hesitating and frowning. She started speaking cheerfully, winking at Carol. "Daddy, let's choose Carol. I really like her. And by the way, you said recently that I would choose the nanny myself, didn't you?" Craig weighed all the pros and cons. Too young for a nanny, only 23. No experience, no recommendations. Who knows what kind of person she is? But her voice. What a wonderful voice she has. And Lisa really liked her. This was the first time. Oh well, what will be, will be. "Okay, Carol, you're hired, but with a trial period. You can start right now. There's a schedule of lessons and a daily routine in Lisa's room. Plus, you'll have to take the child to dance and drawing classes, walk with her, help her with her homework, make sure she eats well, and report to me about any changes in her health. Is everything clear?" The girl almost cried with happiness. She really needed this job. "Thank you, you won't regret it. I'll try very hard." From that day on, Carol started working for the Appleton family. She did an excellent job, and Lisa simply adored her. Carol didn't pressure or scold her. They were more like friends. If Carol noticed that Lisa was starting to slack off or didn't want to write the difficult letters, she would resort to a trick. She would immediately organize a competition. "Okay, whoever completes the task faster and better will get the biggest and most delicious vanilla ice cream, and whoever loses will have to eat oatmeal for 2 days. Personally, I hate oatmeal. What about you?" Lisa panted and wrote those difficult letters of the alphabet, trying to outdo Carol and avoid the unpalatable oatmeal. Craig was happy with the new nanny. His daughter was doing well academically and was in good spirits. In the evenings, she enthusiastically talked about how Carol taught her to make fancy hairstyles or create macrame. Only Diana was not thrilled with the new nanny and kept muttering, "You chose a strange nanny for Lisa. Not only is she a young upstart, but she spoils your daughter more than you do. What kind of upbringing is that? You need to be stricter with Lisa, otherwise she'll just relax. The girl has started to ignore me. Before, at least she would get angry. But now she just keeps quiet and goes to Carol." Craig laughed and said, "You won't be content with anyone, my dear. No nanny is good enough, but having a nanny is also not good for you. If Lisa is rude, you don't like it. If she doesn't say anything, that's also bad. Maybe you just don't want to find a way to connect with the child." Diana pursed her lips. And grudgingly, Diana fell silent, thinking to herself, "Do whatever you want. Just keep that annoying girl away from me. I'm so tired of her." There was a grand piano in the mansion, and Craig, who used to be a musician, sometimes felt nostalgic and played some melodies on it. One day, when he heard Carol and Lisa playing the dog waltz together on the piano and laughing merrily, he almost fell off his chair. He asked Carol, "Carol, do you play the piano? I'm pleasantly surprised. I was a musician in the past too. Play something else. I'm curious to listen." Carol blushed and replied, "I'm not a specialist. I just had a good music teacher in the orphanage. She taught me and said I had talent, but I really loved music, especially this melody. It touches my heart." Then Carol played a slow and romantic tune. Craig was stunned. Tears willingly rolled down his cheeks, and everything in his soul was overturned by the old experiences of his youth. He kept repeating to himself, "My God, this is simply impossible." When Carol had finished, he thanked her and asked, "Tell me, where did you learn this melody? It isn't recorded anywhere, that's for sure. Moreover, it was written by a person I had known." "My neighbor Rachel taught me how to play it," replied Carol. "She's a good woman, talented. If you could hear how she plays, but she has a lot of trouble now. Her son was taken away, and she was fired from work for no reason. She's in deep depression. I tried to encourage her as best I can. Craig's heart was racing, and his legs became weak. He asked for more details. How old is your neighbor? What's her last name? How old is her son? Why was he taken? Carol sighed. Rachel's last name is Lesnikova. She's about 30. I didn't ask about her exact age, and her son's name is Adam. He's 9 years old, a wonderful boy, smart and serious beyond his years. I don't know if Rachel was married or who Adam's father is, but she once mentioned her first and tragically failed love. Rachel used to work as a music teacher in a private school. She earned a decent salary and worked hard. But then the director set his sights on her. He's already married, over 50, with even grandchildren, and he kept harassing her, threatening that if she didn't agree to sleep with him, he would make her life so miserable that she would come crawling to him begging for intimacy. But Rachel was not one to back down. When the director began to shamelessly grope her under her skirt right in his office, she slapped him and threatened to go to his wife and write a statement to the police. That's when the old goat went crazy and really made Rachel's life a nightmare. When she was away, some people broke into her apartment so carefully that it couldn't be detected and made a mess, scattering cigarette butts and empty whiskey bottles everywhere. As soon as Rachel entered her home with her son, whom she had picked up from school, child services and fake witnesses burst in. She didn't understand where the mess and filth came from. They took Adam away, saying that Rachel was drinking and not taking care of her son, but that's a complete lie. I often visited my neighbor. Her house was always clean. I swear she didn't even smoke, and we'd only have a little wine on birthdays or other holidays. In short, Rachel was in shock. She was pounding on the doors of all the authorities, trying to get her son back and prove that she was slandered, but all in vain. The director also fired her from her job and embarrassed her in front of everyone, telling them she was an alcoholic and an irresponsible mother and that she didn't belong in the school. Since that day, Rachel has completely lost her spirit, spending all her time under the windows of the orphanage crying. Adam suffers there too, begging to go home. Just imagine what it's like for a little homely boy to end up there. They only show how wonderful it is on TV, how the children are well fed and dressed. I was an orphan and had lived there. It's a nightmare. I feel so sorry for both Rachel and Adam. I would personally strangle this mean old man with connections who ruined my neighbor's life for his lust. Craig was shocked by what he had heard, and tears flowed from his eyes, irritating his already damaged eyes. Everything matched. It couldn't be true. He asked in a trembling voice, "Carol, I beg you bring Rachel here tomorrow. I really need to see her, or at least hear her. You see, we had known each other, but it's a long story. Just do as I ask." The girl was very surprised but nodded. "Okay, as you say. I'll come with her tomorrow morning if she'd like to, of course. But how do I explain everything to her?" The man said with a breaking voice, "Just tell her that Craig is waiting for her." When Carol came to feed Lisa lunch, Craig locked himself in his office, clasped his head in his hands, and began to remember his youth and Rachel. Craig grew up with his mother alone. He never knew his father. In childhood, she told him fairy tales that his father was a polar explorer, a geologist. But when the boy grew up, he understood everything himself and no longer asked stupid questions. From early childhood, Craig adored music. He could sit for a long time and listen to a favorite melody. Once, when he and his mother were visiting acquaintances, the 5-year-old boy sat down at the piano and, simply playing the keys, could play a simple tune. His mother decided to send him to a music class, where he met Rachel. Craig well remembered how stunned he was when he saw this cute skinny girl with 2 huge bows and a sheet music folder in her hands. They were seated at one desk, and from that day on, Rachel and Craig became best friends. They decided to enter a music college together, made their first serious successes, and performed at concerts. Over the years, their childhood friendship gradually turned into true love. Rachel was always so airy and dreamy. For her, material things were not the main thing. She lived with love and music and didn't pay much attention to the fact that musicians' salaries were small and they had to live on a shoestring, saving on everything. But all of this really irritated Craig. Like any man, he dreamed of having his own house, a cool car, dressing well, and living comfortably. That's why, after finishing college, he didn't pursue further education and instead tried his hand at trading and starting his own business. This caused the couple to argue more and more. "Craig, what are you doing? Don't give up on music. It's your talent. You're really gifted. Your fingers were made for playing, for creating," Rachel would plead. But Craig got angry. "I don't understand you. You're not of this world. Don't you see that we're poor? How and what are we going to live on? On the few pennies we earn from music? Who needs those concerts now? I work to give you these gold earrings, to dress well and eat well. Another girl would be happy with that. And you could give private lessons and earn good money yourself instead of trying to teach me how to live." Rachel, deeply offended, took off the earrings and threw them in her fiancé's face. "Take them. They're not a gift if you're going to use them against me. Maybe it's better for us to break up. I don't understand you. I don't know what happened to you, why you've changed so much. You've become harsh, dry, and soulless. I want a quiet, simple family life. I don't need wealth. The main thing is loyalty, trust, and love. And you've gone crazy, obsessed with money. You disappear for days, your eyes are red, and you've completely given up music. When was the last time you sat down at the piano? I won't give private lessons. I won't take money from children." Craig waved his hand angrily. "Well then, leave. Live your life the way you want. But you'll regret leaving me. I'll become a big businessman, and then we'll see." So they argued and foolishly broke up without any good reason. Craig pursued his career and soon opened a chain of auto repair shops. He worked day and night like a squirrel in a wheel. Then he met Vanessa, got married, had a daughter, and other worries began. In this crazy whirlwind, there was no time to look back. His wife's death greatly weakened him, but then he met Diana and succumbed to her charms. It cannot be said that he did not love Diana. There were feelings, passion, and attachment. Everything except for that unique light and pure feeling of happiness and trembling he had experienced when he was with Rachel and music. And only now, when he heard that same melody from his youth, written by Rachel, did his heart constrict, and a wild longing came over him. He desperately wanted to meet Rachel again, to talk heart to heart. No matter how you look at it, first love lives in a person's heart all their life. It's never forgotten under any circumstances. Craig could barely wait for the next day. He meticulously shaved and got ready in the morning. He couldn't wait for Diana to leave for the beauty salon. Her mindless chatter about rags and gossip about neighbors and acquaintances was driving him crazy. Carol took Lisa to school and returned home, not alone but with Rachel. Craig could only see a blurry silhouette, but the light scent of her floral perfume and her gentle, bell-like voice hadn't changed. The woman exclaimed, "Craig, is it really you? When Carol told me yesterday that Craig wanted to meet me, I was surprised. And you've changed so much. You've become a brutal and prominent man. What happened? Why did you want to see me? And why do you have a black bandage over your eyes? Are you sick?" Craig listened to her words, and tears streamed down his face. He took Rachel's hand and felt its softness and delicacy, with long fingers made for music. He began to kiss and caress each finger, and whispered, "My dear Rachel, how happy I am to see you. I long to see you, to breathe your scent. We were such fools to break up back then. You ask what's happened to me. 2 weeks ago, a bunch of ruffians attacked me and sprayed me with pepper spray in the face. Now I'm almost blind. I can only see blurry silhouettes. The doctors say I need an operation, but that's not important. Carol told me that you have a son, Adam. Rachel, tell me, is he mine? Tell me the truth. Do I really have a son?" Rachel sighed softly and answered, "Yes, Craig. Adam is your son. I haven't been with any other men except for you. No matter how hard I try to forget you, to get you out of my head, I can't. But they took my little boy from me. My heart is breaking. I can hardly sleep. I just sit and wait outside the orphanage, hoping he'll wave to me out of the window. What did I do to deserve all this? I never did anything wrong to anyone. How I hate that lecherous goat who ruined my whole life. He's paid everyone off just to hurt me as much as possible. I'm so desperate that I'm about to agree to his terms just so he'll give me my son back. There's no other way." Craig squeezed her hand tightly and almost shouted, "No, don't even think about it. I'll help you get your boy back. Give me all his information and yours too. I'll find the right people, hire the best lawyers, and together we'll bring down that wretch. I have connections in the police department. Remember Henry Black? You won't believe it, but he's already a police captain. So don't worry. I'll get Adam back. I won't let my son wander through orphanages. Please trust me, Rachel. Everything will be fine. I've never met anyone like you, and now I won't let you go. Know that." They shared warm goodbyes, and Rachel truly regained hope. Craig called Henry, and he quickly agreed to his classmate's request, suggesting they carry out the operation. Rachel had to call the director and pretend to agree to his terms and set up a meeting. They gave her a microphone, and her task was to make her boss confess to everything so he could be caught. Rachel was distressed, but she was ready to do anything for her son. She took a deep breath and resolutely dialed the director's number. He reluctantly answered, "You finally agreed, stubborn girl. Or why are you calling?" Inside, Rachel's anger boiled, but she answered as gently as possible, "Edward, I beg you. Give me back my son." Rachel agreed reluctantly. "Let's meet. Tell me where and when." The director smirked. "Well, let's meet tomorrow at 6 in the evening in my office. There's also a comfortable couch for discussions. I'm waiting for you, my sweet little bird." Rachel felt sick at the director's lecherous words. She gathered herself, dressing as provocatively as her upbringing allowed, a blouse with a deep neckline, a pencil skirt, and high-heeled shoes. She applied more lipstick to her already plump lips, carefully hid it and checked the recording device, and nervously made her way to the director's office. The detective had instructed her that if things went awry, she should open the window. Rachel knocked and entered the office. The director lounged in his chair, grinning hungrily as he looked her up and down. "Good evening, my little bird. I see the situation has been good to you. You've become more talkative. Good job. It's been a while," he said with a lascivious tone. "Oh, what an appetizing body. I'm burning up. Come on, take off your clothes and let me admire you." Rachel was stunned by his audacity, but she steeled herself with thoughts of Adam and the operatives outside. She deflected, suggesting they drink champagne and relax first. "Edward, let's not rush. I can't do it that way. Let's drink, relax," she said, buying time. The director didn't object, uncorking the champagne and pouring drinks. Rachel seized the moment to press him. "Edward, before we, I must be sure that you'll give me back my son. Can you promise me that? I know you're responsible for what happened, but how did you manage to tarnish my good name?" Edward grinned. "You should have been more agreeable from the start. Then there wouldn't have been any problem. No one has the right to turn away from me. Do you think my secretary and the PE teacher work here for nothing? They turned out to be smarter than you and now receive excellent salaries and regular bonuses. As for you, there's nothing complicated. My good and very close acquaintance works in the guardianship authorities, thanks to my patronage. She paid me back by putting your boy in an orphanage, and I hired bandits and witnesses for that mess in your flat. Money solves everything these days, believe me. Well, I liked you. I fell for you, so the more pleasure you give me, the faster you'll get your son back. So, are you relaxed now? Take off your clothes. You talk too much." Rachel realized she couldn't delay any longer. Pretending to unbutton her blouse, she swiftly opened the window. She began to pray and waited anxiously for the police to arrive. The director, losing control, moved towards her aggressively, trying to rip her blouse off. Rachel screamed and fought back, repulsed by his advances. Edward pushed her, knocking things off the table. "Shut up, you fool. There's no one here anyway, not even the janitor. Why did you decide to fight again? Have you lost your mind?" At that moment, the flimsy door burst open with a crash, and the operative stormed into the office. He swiftly arrested the director and reprimanded him sharply. "Shame on you. Engaging in such indecent behavior at your age, and you're a married man with grandchildren. How will they feel knowing what their grandfather has been up to?" The director cursed and struggled to break free. You'd had me wrapped around your finger. You'll pay for this. I have connections, you know. The policeman silenced him. We'll deal with your connections later. How did you manage to take this woman's child and cover it up? Rachel finally relaxed, exhaling deeply as tears of relief and stress streamed down her face. Will they return Adam to me now? He confessed to everything, didn't he? Did I do everything right? She asked, handing the officer the recording device. The officer reassured her, we'll sort everything out. You're right, Diana. We needed to talk seriously for a long time, he began reluctantly. First, I'll answer your question. Rachel is my first and long-standing love. We studied together at the music school. Then, we foolishly broke up. It turned out that she was already pregnant, but didn't even know it yet. She gave birth to a son named Adam, so now I'm the father of 2 children, Lisa and Adam. Diana exploded with disbelief and anger. Even better. Are you saying that besides your spoiled daughter, there will also be a boy living here? That's terrible, she exclaimed, her voice dripping with disdain. Craig felt the weight of her words but remained calm. Diana, Adam is my son. He's been separated from Rachel unfairly. I intend to bring him home and make our family whole. Diana scoffed, and what about me? Am I supposed to just accept this? You never mentioned any of this before. I know this is a lot to take in, Craig replied, his voice tinged with regret. But Rachel and Adam need me. They're a part of my life that I can't ignore any longer. Diana's face twisted in anger. So, what? Am I supposed to step aside for your old flame and her son? This is absurd. Craig shook his head sadly. Diana, it's not about you stepping aside. It's about me doing what's right for my children. Diana's eyes blazed with resentment. Your children. What about me? What about our marriage? Craig paused, his heart heavy with the realization that their marriage had never been built on a solid foundation. Maybe we rushed into this marriage too quickly. It's clear now that we want different things. Diana seethed. You're abandoning me for your past mistakes and a child you never knew about. You're making a big mistake, Craig. Craig took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he had to say next. Perhaps you're right, Diana. Maybe this marriage was a mistake. With that, Craig walked away, leaving Diana fuming and alone in their once shared space. He knew there would be difficult times ahead, but he also knew that he couldn't ignore his responsibilities to Rachel and Adam any longer. You didn't listen to me, Diana. Our romance spun so fast and quickly that I couldn't even understand anything myself. But the passion quickly faded, and 2 years later, we are almost strangers. You don't get along with Lisa, and apparently you're not going to find an approach to her. When I saw Rachel after many years, I realized that I still love her like in my youth. He paused, gathering his thoughts, knowing his next words would be difficult for Diana to hear. I understand it's unpleasant for you to hear this now, but I'm not going to lie. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to the doctor about the eye surgery, and then we'll probably have to part ways. Don't worry, I'll leave you the apartment in the residential area and the car I gave you. And then, well, you're on your own. You'll have to find a job and live like everyone else. Diana jumped up and screamed in a voice that didn't sound like her own. What a statement. I'm your wife, so half of all your property and business is mine. I'll take everything that's rightfully mine. Ungrateful. I've been living with you for 2 years, putting up with your unbearable daughter. At least you could say thank you. By the way, I'm not going to live with you anymore either. I don't need another burden on my shoulders. I'm only 25 years old, my whole life ahead of me. I want to have fun, enjoy life, not take care of someone else's children and a blind husband. Craig couldn't take it anymore. So that's how you talk. While I was healthy, giving you gifts, buying you gold, being a good husband. Now that I'm disabled, I'm not good enough for you? Well then, we can say goodbye right now. I won't keep you any longer. Diana realized she had said too much and changed tactics. Honey, wait. Let's stop now. We both got angry and said too much. Let's wait until you get better and recover before we have this unpleasant conversation, okay? Please, don't rush into surgery. The doctor said a month, not earlier. Otherwise, God forbid, there may be complications. Come to me, I'll kiss you. But Craig saw through her insincerity. As you wish, I've said everything. Sorry. With that, Craig turned away, feeling the weight of their shattered marriage and uncertain future pressing heavily upon him. Craig urgently needed to listen to the recording of the meeting sent by his deputy. I need to hear that recording from my deputy, Craig said, his voice laced with concern. Diana, seething with anger, quickly stormed out of the office. Oh, you miserable invalid. He's leaving me an apartment. What am I supposed to live on? Go work. God forbid. I'm not meant for this. Just wait, I'll get you. You'll remember me for a long time. Ignoring Diana's threats, Craig decided to consult with a professor. Rachel offered to accompany him for support, showing her steadfast friendship. Meanwhile, Carol and Lisa returned home late that day, having enjoyed their after-school activities of drawing and sculpting. They were greeted by a scene of chaos and distress. There's been a break-in, Craig, Carol exclaimed in panic over the phone. Lisa and I just got back, and the house is a mess. The safe's open, the TV's gone, and there were important documents on your shelf. I've called the police. Please come quickly. Okay, Carol. Take Lisa to her room, lock yourselves in, and don't open the door until I arrive. I'm on my way, Craig instructed, his urgency cutting through the phone line. Focusing on the security camera footage, Craig's heart sank as he watched the betrayal unfold. Diana and their driver, Tim, were frantically pillaging the house, grabbing electronics, jewelry, money, and important papers. Unaware of the cameras, Diana's anger boiled over as she shouted, "There you go, hubby. You'll remember me yet." Tim, equally incensed, replied with bitterness, "What a lucky wretch. We couldn't finish him off, just blinded him. Otherwise, we would have sent Lisa to a shelter and lived here like kings." Diana urged Tim to hurry, fearing Carol and Lisa's imminent return. They needed to sell everything quickly and flee to a warm destination. Craig was stunned by the betrayal. The police arrived swiftly, taking fingerprints and launching a pursuit to apprehend the couple. Back inside the house, Lisa hugged her father tightly, offering him comfort in the midst of this shocking betrayal. "I told you a long time ago, Daddy, Diana doesn't love us. She's mean and bad, and you didn't believe me." Craig hugged his daughter tenderly. "You're right, sweetheart. Diana won't be living with us anymore, but I want you to meet someone special. Do you remember Rachel? She visited us once. She has a son named Adam. He's your brother. It's a long story, and you'll understand more when you're older. I hope you two get along." Lisa looked thoughtful, absorbing the news about her new brother. "Daddy, what did the doctor say? Will your eyes be able to see again?" Lisa asked anxiously. Craig smiled reassuringly. "I have surgery scheduled for Monday. You and Carol will be together all the time, and Adam will be with you too. His mother will go with me to the hospital. Please listen to Carol and be a good girl." Meanwhile, the police swiftly located Diana and Tim by tracing them to Tim's apartment. They were handcuffed and taken to the police station. Both faced serious charges for attempting to harm Craig and stealing from him. In the stark reality of the police station, Diana was overwhelmed with panic. The grey walls, the damp atmosphere, the uncomfortable mattress, and the terrible food filled her with dread. It was only now that she realized the gravity of her situation. She cried incessantly and berated herself, muttering, "You fool! Why didn't I just live peacefully? Now look at what I've gotten myself into with this Tim. I need to meet with Craig urgently and beg for forgiveness. He's kind, he'll forgive me. I agree to leave this city as far as possible, anywhere but prison." Meanwhile, Craig initiated divorce proceedings, leaving all the legal details to his lawyer as he prepared for surgery. Rachel stood faithfully by his side, providing comfort and support during this challenging time. At home, Carol cared for the children. Adam, initially shy, found a fast friend in Lisa, whose lively nature quickly helped him feel at ease in the Appleton household. Every day after school, they visited Craig in the hospital, eagerly anticipating the removal of the bandages from his eyes. It was a moment filled with both excitement and anxiety for everyone. Finally, the day arrived for Craig's bandages to come off. As he slowly opened his eyes, tears streamed down his face. The doctor examined him, satisfied with the results, and prepared him for discharge. Walking out of the doctor's office, Craig's smile widened when he saw Rachel waiting in the hallway. "My dear, I knew you hadn't changed a bit over the years. You've only become more beautiful," Craig exclaimed with joy. He admired her familiar features, the lips, the curls, the long eyelashes, and the lock of hair tucked behind her ear. "Rachel, you're so beautiful. Finally, I can look at you and admire you every second. And look at my son. Thanks to Carol, who played our melody on the piano. I'll be grateful to her for the rest of my life," Craig declared emotionally. "Rachel, I'm ready to leave all this business behind. It's been a thorn in my side. I've earned enough over the years for our family to live comfortably for many years. Let's try to live as you've always wanted, in love, peace, enjoying each other, and beloved music. Are you okay with that?" Rachel couldn't hold back her tears of joy as she hugged Craig tightly. "You're my sweet fool. Those are the words I longed to hear from you. I was so hurt when you chose money and business over our love and passion for music. Of course, I agree. I still love you. Do you remember our first kiss? You played the Moonlight Sonata, and we spent the whole night searching for the Big Dipper in the sky, kissing passionately. You wrapped me in your jacket, shielding me from the rain. That moment, I was the happiest," Rachel reminisced fondly. "Let's go home. Everyone is waiting for us there," Craig suggested warmly. When Lisa saw her father confidently walking towards them, she understood that he could see again and rushed to greet him excitedly. "Hooray, Daddy, you're better. Let's go quickly. We baked you a cake. You'll love it." Adam and I helped Carol. Adam stood shyly nearby, hesitant to approach Craig. Seeing this, Craig gently addressed him. "Well, hello, son. Finally. I see you and I can look at you. Well, we certainly look alike. Ears and that smile are definitely mine. Did your mom tell you that I'm your dad? I'm so upset that I didn't know anything about you for 9 years of your life. But now that we've met, let me be a real father, the closest person. I would really like that. Know that I love you, son." Craig extended his hand to the boy, who shook it firmly, and then said quietly, "I'm glad you're with me now, Dad. And I can see how Mom is smiling." Craig hugged his son tightly, pressing him close. "Now, we will all live together as one big family. It seems you've already made peace with Lisa. She's your little sister, so stick together and support each other in life. Well, let's go have lunch." From that day on, the life of the wealthy businessman Craig Appleton changed dramatically. He became an entirely different person, unexpectedly to everyone. He sold his successful and prosperous business and threw himself into caring for his family and music. With great pleasure, he approached the piano every morning, playing his favorite and long-forgotten melodies. He even took out an old music notebook. Rachel, with her immense talent, became his personal tutor and also taught the children. It turned out wonderfully. Rachel and Craig had immense natural talent, and they decided to take a risk and open their brainchild, a private music school. The couple got married modestly, not wanting to attract attention to their lives. They had no time for that. They were too busy admiring and looking at each other. Craig realized only now that for years he had been living someone else's life, choosing the wrong job and the wrong woman, dragging this burden out of inertia. The only thing he didn't regret was his daughter Lisa, his sunshine and the stimulus to live and create all this time. Rachel quickly became friends with Lisa, naturally soft, loving children, and working at the school. Carol, initially worried about losing her job, was reassured by Craig and Rachel. "Don't worry, Carol," Craig said warmly. "Stay in our house. You're no longer a stranger to us, and the children can't do without you." Even with just Lisa, it wasn't boring here, and now we have 2 little ones. Everyone needs to keep an eye on them. Meanwhile, Diana sat in pretrial detention, praying for a meeting with Craig. He deliberately delayed it, wanting to teach her a lesson that would forever deter her from stealing and cheating. Diana changed visibly during this time. She became thin, her skin dull and lifeless. The thought of spending years in this situation made her sick, and despair overwhelmed her. When she was finally told that Craig was ready to meet her, she almost jumped for joy. But when the skinny Diana, dressed in a crumpled tracksuit with greasy hair, entered the room for negotiations. Craig couldn't help but flinch at the stark contrast from the Diana he knew. She had changed a lot. There was no trace left of her former confidence and audacity. Tears welled in her eyes as she pleaded quietly, "Forgive me, Craig, if you can. I'm to blame. I have nothing left. Please withdraw the statement. I don't want to go to jail. I'll leave right away to my mother's, and I'll never bother you again. Have mercy on me. Forgive me." Craig replied calmly, "I hope jail served as an excellent lesson for you. You won't steal someone else's property anymore, at least not from the one who supported you. And you won't harm your next husband either. That plan failed. I can see now, my vision has fully recovered. Lisa is a wonderful child. She gets along with Carol, Rachel, and her little brother Adam. It wasn't about her, it was about you. You're a wicked, calculating, selfish person who only thinks about your own interests. I'll withdraw the statement, but if you ever show up again, you'll end up in jail. I've kept the recording safe." Diana cried softly and whispered, "Thank you." The Appleton family lived in peace and harmony. Many people in the city and their children wanted to attend their music school. Lisa and Adam also played instruments. Adam chose the guitar and drums, while Lisa stuck with the piano. Rachel often composed her own melodies, and Craig wrote poetry. They had family songs they enjoyed singing together. Finally, Craig's life became filled with the meaning he had dreamed of. Nick married Jolie 3 years ago, but to be honest, he wouldn't have married her if she hadn't become the sole owner of her father's business after his sudden death. Her father, a seemingly young and strong businessman, had died unexpectedly from a stroke. Jolie, as Mr. McMillan's only child, inherited his entire fortune. This is why Nick, a handsome slacker accustomed to living off women, paid attention to her. Jolie was captivated by Nick's charming promises, while he planned to stay with her only until a more profitable opportunity arose. But it soon became clear that Jolie was the jackpot of his life. She inherited her father's colossal wealth, and Nick knew exactly how to take advantage of it. He believed he could easily manipulate her deep affection for him to control her fortune. Everything was going perfectly for Nick. The girl was deeply grieving. Her father had been her pillar of support and the most significant person in her life. So Nick quickly surrounded Jolie with care and support during this hard time. The young and naive girl was unaware that the worst moment of her life had spurred Nick to hide his true nature even more, at least until their wedding. He maintained his good behavior, ensuring there was no turning back. After the funeral, he proposed marriage, suggesting they wait until her mourning period for her father was over. Nick was adept at deception, manipulation, and pretense. He could become whoever he needed to be and do whatever was expected of him. With his wealthy girlfriends, he typically didn't put in much effort, thinking there would always be another wealthy woman. With Jolie, he knew it was worth it. His efforts would not be in vain, and the cunning man clearly understood it. However, the first hurdle for him came unexpectedly from a source he couldn't have foreseen. Jolie's father had a best friend who was also his main deputy in the company and godfather to Jolie, Mr. Chinland. He understood right away that Jolie was head over heels in love and wouldn't be dissuaded from marriage. Her grief over losing her father made her seek a replacement. But as an intelligent and shrewd man, Mr. Chinland categorically insisted on a prenuptial agreement and managed to win Jolie over to his side. "Nick, it's for business. Is it that hard?" Jolie asked, repeating what Mr. Chinland had told her. "This is humiliating. Do you think I need your money?" Nick retorted, indignant at this turn of events. "Honey, it's just a formality. We only need it in case of divorce. My godfather really wants us to sign it. He's always been like a second father to me," Jolie explained. Jolie may have been naive about financial matters, given that she'd never had to worry about money, but she wasn't a fool in other respects. When she set a goal, she achieved it, no matter what. Nick was pinned against the wall and had to agree to all of Mr. Chinland's terms. The marriage contract formulation was standard but completely curtailed Nick's rights. It was evident that the business and all other property inherited from Jolie's father could not become joint property of the spouses. Nick assumed he would receive a share in the dividends and acquire new property and assets. However, the contract, drafted by a top-class lawyer, prevented Nick from having this opportunity. Despite this, Nick believed the marriage was still beneficial to him, as he would access his wife's finances without control and build up capital for the future. He planned to take money from the common budget daily and transfer it to his name, but Nick was mistaken in this regard too. Mr. Chinland was a dedicated, decent, and responsible person who not only controlled Jolie's financial flows in business, but also her personal finances. Nick had limited funds for personal expenses, but nevertheless, he remained optimistic about the future and waited to see how the situation would develop. Soon, his patience was indeed rewarded. Jolie had been trying to conceive since their wedding day. She desired motherhood, but each new cycle brought bitterness and disappointment. Initially, she attributed it to nerves and stress caused by the frantic pace of life. Taking the business into her own hands and learning on the go was naturally exhausting. After more than a year of unsuccessful attempts, Jolie sought help from specialists, underwent a full medical examination, and identified the cause of her failures. The symptoms she had attributed to a busy lifestyle turned out to be alarm bells. Her body had been warning her of problems, but she had ignored it. Finally, the doctors diagnosed her with cancer. She underwent almost 2 years of treatment and suffering, but with little success. All this time, Nick played the role of husband only nominally. His vested interest was that Jolie simply did not exist, and he had not managed to hide it well enough. Although they never openly discussed it, Jolie was aware of the numerous women her husband had cheated on her with. Nick believed he was adept at conspiracy and manipulation, thinking he was successfully playing the role of a dying wife's husband without arousing suspicion. He felt lucky and thought he only needed to endure a little longer to achieve his desired outcome. However, Nick's behavior was condemned and discussed by everyone, from the nurses in the hospitals where Jolie was treated to Mr. Chinland. The man was furious and helpless. He couldn't comprehend why Jolie would desperately want to preserve her marriage on the brink of the grave. He was also worried that Jolie had no will, which meant her husband would automatically become her only heir. That scoundrel would inherit everything, including the fruits of Jolie's and her father's hard work, which would be for nothing, an exercise in futility. Mr. Chinland was sure that Nick, this weasel, would squander all the property within a few years. However, the elderly man was at a loss on how to broach such a delicate subject with his goddaughter, who until yesterday emanated health and youth and now had no chance. She was dying, and it would happen in the very near future, counting down to weeks. Nick was already rubbing his greedy hands, his eyes burning with anticipation of getting rid of his frowning and sick wife and acquiring a solid capital. It seemed to him that the matter was in the bag. Mr. Chinland prayed that he would not have to start a conversation about the will himself, but fortunately, it was not necessary. Jolie started the conversation herself. Her secret left him speechless because she had planned everything meticulously, with finesse and a ruthlessness he never expected. Revenge is truly a dish best served cold, and Jolie executed it flawlessly. The way Jolie came up with and realized her plan did not take much effort and time, but she completed her journey here on Earth, realizing her main dreams. Unfortunately, Jolie's loved ones did not witness a miracle, and she passed away without recovering. She had arranged the details of her funeral with great care before her death, serene and resolute. She clearly conveyed her final wishes. The day after the farewell ceremony, the notary called the people mentioned by Jolie in her will and asked them to arrive for its announcement. Nick was shocked by this news. He was sure that his wife had not drawn up any official document in case of her death, and that he would become her sole heir, as the law usually provides in such cases. Still hoping for the best, he went to the appointed meeting, taking his new mistress Shirley, a striking beauty. Upon entering the notary's office, Nick spotted Mr. Chinland and Jolie's friend Kurt Turgan, but what caught him off guard was that Kurt wasn't alone. He was pushing a stroller with a baby boy inside. Nick was completely unaware of Kurt's marriage or the birth of his child. Although Nick wasn't an expert in any field, he certainly wasn't foolish. It didn't take him long to realize that there was a hidden agenda at play and that he had been outsmarted. Despite this, curiosity overwhelmed him. He wanted to know what Jolie had devised, even though it was already evident that it would be something incredibly humiliating for him. For approximately 15 minutes, everyone remained silent, occupying different corners of the room. No one else arrived. The notary seemed to have deliberately prolonged the introductory part as much as possible, explaining why they had gathered and what an honor it was to read the deceased's last will and testament. Even then, Nick could tell by the wicked grin on Mr. Chinlin's face that the contents of the will were a secret only to him. Finally, Nick heard his name. "To my lawful husband, Nick, I deny the inheritance," read the notary. After reading this modest and short sentence, the notary looked at Nick and asked if he understood the essence of what had been said. The humiliated man had no choice but to nod. At that moment, Shirley took his hand and tried to get up to leave defiantly, but Nick held her in place. She looked at him with a questioning gaze that he ignored. He himself would have wanted to leave the scene of his public humiliation as quickly as possible, but the play was not over, and the invited audience needed to see it through to the end. After a brief pause, the notary proceeded. "I bequeath all my personal property to my only son, Robert Turgan. Until he reaches adulthood, I appoint his father, Kurt Turgan, and Mr. Chinland as guardians and administrators of his estate." A shocking revelation hit Nick like a... "She hasn't been pregnant in the last 2 years." "That's impossible." Nick desperately clutched at straws, despite realizing that being pregnant wasn't necessary to have a child nowadays. The godfather smirked, clearly relishing Nick's shock and disappointment. "The advancements in medicine these days are astounding," he remarked. Looking at this scene, Kurt remembered the horror he felt 2 years ago when he discovered that his best friend was seriously ill with little chance of recovery. It was shocking how calmly she spoke about her limited time and what she needed to do. That's when she revealed her desire to become a mother no matter what. "I had my eggs preserved before starting treatment. I was told that I probably wouldn't be able to raise my own child, but I insisted. Kurt, I grew up without a mother, and I know it isn't easy, but I always felt her love and protection." "Does Nick agree to raise the child alone?" Kurt cautiously inquired. "Who would allow him? He would gladly become a guardian and use the baby's money, as he lacks conscience." "No, I've already realized that my dear spouse is someone of questionable character, to put it mildly. His reaction to my diagnosis and prognosis. I don't even want to speak about him. This man isn't worth getting upset about." "And what about the baby?" Kurt asked. "That's what I wanted to discuss with you." Jolie hesitated, which was quite unusual for her since she was usually fearless. "I don't know how to broach the subject delicately. Maybe there is no delicate way. In short, I would like you to be the father of my child," she exclaimed in a high-pitched voice. "Are you joking? You have a husband," Kurt said, clearly unprepared for this. "Yes, I do have a husband, and I will have him until the day I die. I've already made that decision, Kurt. Of course, we won't sleep together. It's impossible given my current condition. I can't carry the baby myself, unfortunately. I had my eggs preserved. Now we need the biological material from the future father. Naturally, I also need a woman to carry and give birth to him, but luckily such services are available now." At first, Kurt thought it was absurd, the nonsensical ramblings of a desperate woman. Yet she had an entire logical plan in her head and had already completed a significant amount of preparatory work. She had researched the legal aspects, arranged for reproductive clinic services, and even found a surrogate mother for the future baby. "Kurt, I could use the services of a donor for the father, but I really want to leave a piece of myself behind. When you think about it, who will the baby be with? I've been thinking a lot, and you're the only one I can rely on. Knowing you for so many years, I believe that you will be a great father. I understand that you want to create your own family, get married, and have children. Naturally, it's logical. But please think about it. Don't answer me right now. For me, after what happened with Nick, it's critical that the father of my child is someone who doesn't prioritize money, someone who won't exploit my assets. I'm not as naive as I was before marriage. Nick taught me a lot, and now I have a lot of life experience. As for you, you don't need any money at all. You have plenty. My father has, Kurt replied, correcting Jolie's reasoning for the first time. You know you're going to get it. You work tirelessly to keep the family company thriving. You've never been needy. Now I know for a fact that a man who grew up poor will never stop thinking about having enough to eat, and if his decency is also lacking, there will be a big problem. I have experienced that firsthand, Jolie sadly added. To be honest, I'm completely confused. I had an entirely different idea of becoming a father. I need to consult my parents. Understand that I can't make such a decision alone. I will need the help of close family members when I become a father, so I have to inform them and ask for their opinion. Jolie had no objection, so she only requested that Kurt promise to keep the information a secret. The conversation with Kurt's parents was very difficult. His father neutrally accepted everything that was said, listened to all the explanations, and assured that he would support his son's decision and help as much as he could with his grandchild. His mother, however, was not as open-minded. Like all mothers, she wanted him to marry a good woman and have children together. She felt immense sympathy for Jolie. She had known her from childhood and thought highly of her, but this request was very difficult for a mother to accept. The potential grandchild's mother was dying, and the child would be carried by another woman. Can't the child get the disease? The woman dreaded this question, finding it awful, awkward, and out of place. However, how else could she ensure her grandson's safety? Jolie does not have a hereditary form of the disease, Kurt answered. This reassured the anxious woman to some extent, though not completely. Nevertheless, after careful consideration, she expressed her support for her son's decision. Kurt himself also struggled with indecision. Jolie's proposal caught him off guard, but after some period of contemplation, he concluded that there was no reason to refuse. When he conveyed his approval to Jolie, she was overjoyed, and they began implementing her plans step by step. While Kurt sat and reflected on the life-altering story, Mr. Chinland reminisced about the conversation with Jolie a little over 2 months ago. Starting from afar, she said that she honored Mr. Chinland as a second father and hoped he wouldn't refuse. Then she blurted out that she wanted him to become the guardian of her son. Initially, Mr. Chinland thought his goddaughter was delirious, but as Jolie shared the full story, he was left in shock. Not only had Jolie and Kurt made such a bold decision, but they had also hidden it for so long. How old is the baby now? Mr. Chinland asked. Robert is 8 months old, Jolie smiled. You both truly know how to surprise, Mr. Chinland explained, still processing the shock. I don't want Nick to find out about the child before I die. In fact, he will only find out when my will is announced. I've already had it drafted, and it's held with the notary. However, there's one aspect that still needs to be resolved. Robert will have only one parent. I've reassessed many aspects of my life, and I don't want to leave anything to chance. Kurt has parents, so if anything were to happen to him, Robert will go to them. But I want you to have rights too, just in case. Being good at understanding people, the elderly man sensed that it could be too dangerous to act against Nick like this, even though Jolie's husband fully deserved such treatment. Jolie, are you sure this is the way to treat your husband? He's a repugnant man, and involving yourself with him in this manner. I mean, why do you need such vengeance from beyond the grave? He expressed his thoughts, then immediately stopped himself. Sorry, dear, for being so rude. You know I've pondered this for 2 years. I witnessed Robert's birth, saw how Kurt loves him, and how his parents adore him. I require nothing else. I have accepted the situation. Currently, I am much more annoyed by those who speak to me about some mystical recovery and healing. As for Nick, I loved him so deeply. I believed in him with all my heart, but he turned out to be the most ungrateful beast. He comes to my hospital as if it were hard labor. Do you know his girlfriends brought him here? The elderly man silently nodded, bitterness apparent in his expression. And I should forget this? Absolutely not. He cherishes money above all else, so that's how I will punish him. It will be a surprise for him. You see, I kept everything from you. It was immensely difficult. I wanted to introduce you to my son right away, but I was exceedingly cautious that no one would accidentally find out and tell Nick. This may be my farewell to him. I even wrote him a letter. The notary will deliver it. Mr. Chinland made several attempts to dissuade his goddaughter. It seemed to him like an ill-advised decision, yet the woman maintained her stance, and he had to concede. After all, it was her final will, and it deserved to be respected. Amidst the sudden silence in the notary's office, everyone was engrossed in their own thoughts. Of course, you don't need to be a fortune teller to guess that Nick cursed Jolie in every possible manner. People like him have no inkling that they themselves might be to blame and that others' behavior could be a perfectly logical response. Yet such introspection is too complex for such people. Why bother searching for problems within oneself? Strangely enough, it was Shirley who brought a sense of perspective. Shirley interrupted the silence, trying to take her lover by the elbow to lead him out. However, Nick had no intention of leaving, as he had not finished speaking. "Are you sure that I'm not entitled to anything at all? A mandatory share or whatever it's called. I am the husband, after all," he shrieked. Even Shirley winced at his behavior, let alone the others present. Only the elderly notary, accustomed to such conduct, remained unsurprised. "According to the will, you are not included in the circle of persons entitled to a mandatory share in the inheritance. Moreover, I carefully studied your marriage contract. Its text is attached here." The notary patted the thick folder in front of him. "You have no chance, even when appealing to the courts," although he naturally retained the right to such an appeal. "Of course, I will dispute it. It's unclear who this illegitimate child really is, who she claimed as her son." Nick went on a rampage, not realizing what he was saying. Kurt struggled to restrain himself from punching the arrogant man, and even the usually calm Mr. Chinland flushed with anger. Only the notary remained as calm as a python. For him, this was a typical workday, and nothing was surprising. He calmly responded, "Attached here are not only the child's birth certificate, but also medical documents providing clear answers about his birth. Furthermore, as per the deceased's request, there is a DNA examination result confirming that your wife is the biological mother of Robert Turgan. I should inform you that all documents have been gathered completely and thoroughly." "Can I see them?" Nick demanded. "No, you can only review the part that pertains to you. All other documents, especially those regarding the child, can only be disclosed with the parent's consent." "Of course, I do not permit it," Kurt immediately interjected. "So it's possible only in a court proceeding, if the court deems it necessary to demand these documents," the notary clarified. This was the final straw for Nick. He stormed out of the office, slamming the door behind him and vowing not to let this matter rest. His mistress, however, was more polite. She said goodbye and left quietly, closing the door behind her. "Does it matter that he didn't sign that the will was read to him?" Mr. Chinland asked the notary. "There are many like him. It's nothing more than a formality," the notary reassured him. "It would be funny if it weren't so sad. I still don't understand how Jolie got involved with him," Mr. Chinland said, his thoughts aloud, but his question remained rhetorical. The men quickly signed the necessary documents and shook hands. Mr. Chinland helped Kurt put little Robert into the stroller. "Will you join us? I want to take a walk, get some fresh air, and it's good for the baby," Kurt asked. "Certainly, I'll join for a while," Mr. Chinland replied. They walked in silence, listening to the rustle of the stroller wheels. "Do you think Jolie would be satisfied with how I'm coping?" Kurt finally asked, voicing what had been bothering him. "I'm sure of it. You're a wonderful father, and it's clear to see how much you both mean to each other," Jolie's godfather reassured him. "To be honest, there's one thing I can't get out of my head. You know, I think Jolie told you that I advised her against what just happened at the notary's office. Are you talking about this circus with the will and how Nick found out about Robert?" Mr. Chinland nodded in response. "Of course," Kurt replied. "I was the one who constantly brought up the conversation about that. I didn't like this idea from the very beginning. He's a nasty type, angry, stupid, and mercenary. Why provoke him? Honestly, I even contemplated telling him when the baby was already born. Jolie was hiding it so much, I believed I had no right to. I decided that she just didn't want to deal with him herself, and left these disputes to us. Today, I saw him with that woman, showing no shame at all. Now I question whether I did the right thing by not insisting on my stance. His reaction, the expression on his face, it was horrifying. It would have been better to get rid of him earlier. I think Jolie didn't want to either. That played a part too. And revenge, she wanted revenge because she loved. Regardless of what she said later, she loved intensely, and this corrupted love found no other way out. My poor girl, the elderly man said, wiping a tear trickling down his cheek. Don't grieve for her. She'd asked us not to. She asked us to direct all our love, which was for her, to Robbie, Kurt comforted Jolie's godfather. While the men reminisced, Nick and Shirley watched from the car, discussing the same topic. So you won't get anything at all, right? The girl asked in disbelief, blinking rapidly. You're such a fool. You've heard that there are no chances because of this foundling. Okay, let's go. We need to take at least something valuable and move it to my apartment. 3 days later, Kurt finally mustered the courage to visit Jolie's house, only to find it empty. He had braced himself for a confrontation and even brought 2 security guards for protection, but Nick had already left, taking plenty of valuables with him. Now, Nick was sitting alone in the small kitchen of his tiny apartment, nursing a bit of whiskey. Shirley had left him, which was expected. Why would she need a beggar? As Nick pondered his current situation, he couldn't help but reflect on how he had ended up here. Before, women used to pay him to be with him, but now he needed to offer money to a young, beautiful girl to stay in her company. Ironically, Nick, a gigolo past his prime and deteriorated due to his vices, didn't blame himself for his circumstances. In his thoughts, his wife was the villain who had drained his vitality and dashed his hopes, leaving him without an inheritance. He had been so looking forward to the money. In his fantasies, he was young, handsome, successful, and extremely wealthy. But as a parting shot, Shirley had told him some harsh truths. No one needed him. He was just a poor drunkard living in delusions of grandeur. It was very difficult to come to terms with that reality. His dreams of wealth and success, largely contingent on his ex-wife, crumbled like a house of cards. His aspirations to be a successful businessman were dashed. Blinded by his ego, he failed to see his own part in his downfall. Instead, he blamed his deceased wife, whom he saw as the root of all his problems. Nick spent nearly 2 weeks in a drunken stupor, seeking escape from reality, and his resentment grew stronger each day. During one bleak, hangover-filled morning, he decided he had had enough. He realized that he wouldn't achieve success or revenge on Jolie by drinking. Nick felt deeply humiliated. A few days prior, men from Mr. Chinland had arrived and practically forced him to hand over his car keys, tearing up the power of attorney Jolie had given him. Didn't you know the power of attorney loses its legal force after the death of the person who issued it? One of the men said in a derogatory manner. In his mind, Nick saw himself as a saint who never left his sick wife's side. He conveniently overlooked his endless intrigues, gambling, alcohol abuse, and dismissive behavior towards his wife. What a pity that she's dead, and I can't hit her, he thought so many times. I barely restrained my impulse, encouraging myself that my patience would be generously rewarded. He began to ponder how he would take revenge on her and what he should do next. At first, he wanted to desecrate her grave, but then, contemplating what was dear to Jolie and what would cause her the most suffering, he saw another answer that was lying on the surface: Robert. Nick was struck by electricity when this idea came to him. He laughed viciously, having finally devised his revenge plan. Of course, there were many issues to resolve and structure, but he had decided on the main thing. He was not going to hurt Robert. What's a mother's worst nightmare? Not being able to help her child in trouble. That's precisely what he decided to do. The plan of his inflamed imagination was simple: kidnap the baby, take him far away, and leave him at an orphanage. For a week, thoughts of revenge and fantasies of it warmed Nick's soul, if he had one. He hadn't smiled like this for a long time. True, such a grimace looked rather intimidating and scary, but Jolie's husband didn't care at all. You could even say that he was happy as he thought through all the details. He experienced euphoria. The object of his hatred was not nearby, but Nick eagerly imagined how Jolie would suffer from her inability to help her child. Once he had settled on a plan, theoretically, he began to think about the practical side. He needed to find out everything about Robert's movements and those with whom he left the house to perfectly select the place and time for his crime. Nick had known Kurt well in his past and was even familiar with his parents, having visited their house. He also knew that their elite suburban settlement had enhanced security. As Nick began to contemplate his plan, he realized the challenges he would face. He couldn't predict how much time he would spend observing from the forest with binoculars, studying the child's daily routine and movements. Was the gain worth the candle? Absolutely, Nick reasoned with himself. His mental state had been noticeably affected after the announcement of the will. She ruined my life, and I will ruin the life of her child. A rich heir, he will live off the state's readiness, and his mother will watch from the other world, realizing she is to blame for everything. The man laughed maliciously. If an indifferent person had been near Nick at that moment, they would have noticed the drastic changes in his mind and taken him to a doctor. Unfortunately, history doesn't entertain hypotheticals. Nick was unmatched in achieving his goals. If he had a plan, no matter how foolish it seemed, he saw it through to the end. He spent 2 full days not just watching but preparing the necessary conditions for it. Nick scouted the entire territory to find the perfect vantage point. He needed a spot that overlooked the entire settlement, especially the Turgan house, while remaining hidden. The man devoted all his effort and time to finding a place that he deemed perfect in every aspect. For over a week, Nick rose at dawn and hurried to the cottage settlement, remaining there until late evening. He kept a constant watch with binoculars, recording every activity in the house, who arrived and when they departed. He diligently maintained a notebook to ensure he didn't miss anything. He found that the child was cared for by Kurt's grandmother and a nanny. Of course, Kurt and his mother were unsuitable for implementing Nick's plans. They both knew him well and could identify him immediately. Nick had no intention of being punished for the crime he had committed. He anticipated that the police would come to him with questions, but he hoped to wave them away. Therefore, the nanny was chosen as the victim of the attack in Nick's plan. She had a fixed schedule and always walked with Robert in the same locations along the same routes. Fortune favored Nick on Wednesday during her daytime walk with a peacefully sleeping baby. The nanny left the secured territory of the settlement. She followed a small forest path to a clearing where another nanny from a nearby settlement met her. They conversed, and Nick even heard their laughter. The man decided to stop watching the settlement daily to avoid attracting attention. He needed to remain inconspicuous. Now, he only visited on Wednesdays, trying to coincide with the nanny's daytime walk. Everything was precise, like clockwork. Each Wednesday, the nanny would leave the safety of the settlement and walk the forest path. For 4 consecutive Wednesdays, he observed the system to ensure it did not fail. On the 4th Wednesday, he knew he would return. The next week, at the same time, Nick prepared to execute his plan to take away the child. He purchased a powerful stun gun from a local market, paying cash to avoid being traced. He meticulously planned every detail to aid in avoiding capture. Similarly, he acquired an old car, stole license plates, and attached them to the vehicle. He strategically determined where to park the car, close enough for a quick escape, but not so near as to attract attention. He also took steps to disguise his appearance, altering his figure and face to avoid recognition. Thoughts of kidnapping consumed him. He went to sleep and woke up with these thoughts, even dreaming about the act in precise detail. As the appointed day approached, he lost nearly 7 kilos and became a mere shadow of his former self. A quick glance at him was enough to realize this was a man to be feared. Traces of neurosis and obsession began to etch themselves onto his face. On Wednesday, he parked in a pre-selected spot and waited. As he saw the nanny pushing the stroller down the path, he trembled. The extensive planning had disconnected him from the reality of his impending actions. He was about to confront a stranger, assault her with a stun gun, snatch the child from the stroller, and flee to his car. Nick had imagined the situation to be different, more like a scene from a video game. Here, however, everything was real: the woman, the baby in the stroller, and the baby examining his surroundings with curiosity. By nature, Nick was not violent, and crossing that line was difficult for him. But his deep-seated hatred for Jolie drove him to carry out his plan. He approached the nanny, pushed her away from the stroller, and knocked her down. Then, using the taser on her, she passed out from the shock. All that was left was to take the child out of the stroller and run to the car. However, things went awry. As he bent down to unfasten the belts, he felt a blow to his head and fell to the ground. The next thing he knew, an elderly man was standing over him, scolding Nick and tying his hands. Nick lost consciousness again. The mysterious man turned out to be a gamekeeper well known in the nearby elite communities. His guardhouse was practically in the middle, just beyond a clearing where nannies from neighboring settlements often gathered. His dwelling was concealed behind dense greenery and went unnoticed by Nick that day. Mr. Mayo had been returning from the local store when he noticed suspicious activity. "I saw someone standing guard, dressed entirely in black despite the morning heat," he later explained to the police officer. "I decided to watch a little and investigate." Due to his many years as a gamekeeper, Mr. Mayo was adept at moving silently through the forest to avoid alarming the wildlife. "I hid behind a tree and kept a watchful eye. Suddenly, I saw a man attack a woman, knocking her down. I initially thought he intended to assault her, but he was trying to reach the child. I rushed over and hit him with a stick I had picked up just in case," Mr. Mayo explained. "Good job, Mr. Mayo," one of the officers said. "You've become a local hero. Look, the press is already gathering. They want to interview you. Sign this police report and bask in your newfound fame." "No, I won't go to them. I don't care for that sort of thing," replied the gamekeeper, quietly walking back to his place in a roundabout way to ensure no one followed him. Mr. Mayo didn't feel he had done anything extraordinary. He believed anyone would have acted similarly in his position. How could he not assist when those who couldn't defend themselves were in danger? A few hours later, Kurt appeared at Mr. Mayo's house. "Hello. I am the father of the boy you rescued today," Kurt said gratefully, his voice filled with emotion. "He's a good kid. He calmed down as soon as I picked him up. Such a brave and intelligent boy. Thank you so much. It's a blessing you were there at the time. We're so grateful you didn't just pass by." Mr. Mayo, the gamekeeper, waved off Kurt's thanks with a modest smile. "There's no need to thank me. Who keeps score when a child's life hangs in the balance?" Kurt was on the verge of tears, overwhelmed with emotions from the intense day. "Tell me, how can I thank you?" "What are you talking about?" Mr. Mayo replied. "There's no need for thanks. But if you insist, a new hunting suit and maybe some food for my dog would be appreciated." "Of course, no problem," Kurt nodded. "By the way, if you don't mind me asking, was all this done for money?" Mr. Mayo's curiosity was genuine. "Oh, sadly, it's much more complicated than that," Kurt sighed. "Well, feel free to share if it's not too much trouble. I live somewhat isolated here, in an information vacuum, so to speak." Kurt began recounting the disjointed events of the past years, the illness that befell Jolie, their unconventional parenting decisions, her subsequent passing, and the bitter aftermath involving Nick. The investigator informed me that Nick was deeply hurt. As everyone assumed, his actions were solely driven by greed. He was, in fact, consumed by revenge. Kurt felt relieved to share this complex story with someone seeking an unbiased perspective. "I wonder if we drove him to this point. Are we responsible for his desire for revenge?" Mr. Mayo's response was blunt and honest. "Oh boy, are you serious? You're an adult, and you're talking such nonsense. That Nick of yours always found a reason. He doesn't even need one. He married for money, cheated shamelessly, mistreated his sick wife, and convinced himself it was all her fault. What's her fault? For retaliating once? For losing patience? For not enduring it?" Mr. Mayo's words, though harsh, offered a perspective that uplifted Kurt. He deeply pondered every word spoken. "Now, I also owe you for your good advice," Kurt smiled in response. The gamekeeper merely waved his hand. They parted as friends, and Mr. Mayo promised to check in on the boy. "I heard somewhere that the Chinese have this belief or wisdom, God knows what to call it, that if you save someone's life, you're responsible for that person forever. So don't worry about your Robert. I'll look after him here too, the gamekeeper said as a farewell. True to his word, Mr. Mayor regularly visited Kurt's house, becoming a welcome guest. For Robert, he became another loving family member. Meanwhile, Nick was sentenced to several years of imprisonment. During this time, the family managed to return to their usual quiet life, breathing a collective sigh of relief. Mr. Chinland continued to visit regularly, dutifully fulfilling his duties assigned by his goddaughter. Kurt, in time, met a single mom whose daughter attended the same kindergarten group as Robert. The children got along well, and Kurt's parents hoped this new relationship would bring stability and happiness to their son and Robert. As promised to Jolie, Kurt ensured Robert never forgot his mother. He spoke of her often, showing the boy pictures and videos, reminding him of her everlasting love and protection. "Your mother loves you very much, and she is always with you, protecting and watching over you, even if you can't see her," Kurt assured Robert.